Hey everybody, welcome to Culture Club. I'm joined today by the Reverend Jon Cook. Most of you will know him. Well,
Right.
Jon, as our guest today, we have been talking about culture. We've been talking about the creation of culture. We've been talking about the fact that culture is intentional, not by default. I think you used the term that it's mindful, not mindless.
Yep.
I loved it, by the way. That was a great comment. So
Thank
I'm
you.
going to hand over to you. Coming from the Hillsong Church up there in Newcastle,
Yeah.
you guys have got some great ways of talking in this particular way as well. So I'm going to hand over to you for a few minutes.
Yeah. Cool. So just going back to the comment, I'll talk about, if it's okay with you, Pastor Tom, talk about maybe individual cultures that I've seen in proclaimers. But I just guess I want to talk about the mindless or mindful thing, because one of the things that we often find, culture is going to be created, isn't it? We know that. And we either, the intentionality of culture is what we've got to have. And if we as leaders don't bring culture, someone else or other issues will be brought up, and that will create the culture. And it's not always a positive culture, because culture can be positive, it could be negative, or it can be neutral.
Yeah.
So that's, and it's neither or, and we can make that neutrality into positive or negative. But someone or something will build culture within our churches, and we as leaders, that's part of our job. We bring the gospel, we're ministers of the gospel, we pastor people, but we have to create the culture of our churches. And I think one of the things that's impacted me, and it's a privilege to speak to you about it, because I think you're an incredible culture creator. And you've done that wherever you've gone, with whatever you've done, and with the people that you have. So for me to talk about that, I love talking culture, but it's got to be mindful, not mindless. But we've got to take into account that mindful can very quickly become mindless, because what we created sometimes is good for the time. This dumb dog is sometimes great for the time that we are, or the situation, or even the venue that we have. But we can carry that culture to somewhere else. And the only reason we do it is because that's the way we did it before. And that's when it's mindless, not mindful. And it's not necessarily that the culture was wrong. It's just that we haven't thought it through for our particular demographic, particular situation. And so, thinking about venues, which is quite an easy way of looking at things, because people understand that. What we found was, when we moved venues a lot, was we knew how to run cables for the venue that we were in. What we didn't know was why they ran that way. And that's the problem. It's so, it's a really easy thing. It's like, yeah, we run that from there to there, but why they run from there to there? And then when you go into a new venue, I have no idea where and how to run the cables anymore. So we've got to be very mindful about, and teach people, we talk about teaching people the why, and that's a really practical way of thinking about that. And so we have to, and one of the ways of doing that, of staying mindful, is asking why do we do it that way? Why are the drums on the left-hand side of the stage? Can we put them somewhere else? Because at one stage, because of our speaker system, or because of the way we had the chairs, that was the best way of having the drums. But is that the best way now? So we're not saying it's not, we're just asking the question why. And if we do that for everything at regular intervals, then what we're bringing is a mindfulness about everything. When we think about a green room, for instance, do we need a green room? Is this the best way of doing a green room? Are these the best people to be in the green room? Or is it just because we've become used to having these people in the green room? The meetings that we have across a Sunday, we've had to re-look. Sorry about this. We've had to re-look regularly because of the increase in services and because of the way we do things, are these the right people to be in these meetings on a Sunday? Or do we need another group of people? And so asking those questions helps bring culture, a mindful culture, not a mindless culture. Because like I said, culture is going to be created.
Yeah.
And we want to be the cultural architects. And so when we think about that, we always, we want to build leaders and build an environment and a culture of leaders that ask the question, why? Why do we do it that way? Why is that still the best way of doing things, or is there a better way? And I think one of the things I love about the generation that's coming through, which is a positive and a negative, is they ask the question, why? Why'd you do it that way?
Yeah.
And have you noticed how the generations, or that, we talk about millennials and Gen X and boomers and Gen Y and all of that, how we do things so differently. If you're watching right now, I want you to take a look at your wristwatch. If you take a look at your wristwatch, you're likely to be over 30. Or if you're under 30, you won't use it as a wristwatch. You've been using it as a fitness app. What you do to get the time is look at your phone. That's the culture that we live in, and that's the different cultures of the generations. And I'm of a certain age where I still use my watch as a watch and a fitness app. But we do things in certain ways. But I love the fact that younger people now are just always asking the question, why? Why do we do it that way? Why do we have this thing about our church? What's the gospel mean? And we have to be able to answer those questions to create culture within the life of the church.
And make a comment here, because I think it's important. As a leader, I need to know the answer why. But wisdom sometimes says, hey, just pause for a moment. Why are you questioning this? Do you think you might have different insights into this? Or, do you think maybe there's a better way of doing it than the way we're doing it? Because here's the response I've got for your why, but why are you asking the question why? I want to get a little bit more insight from them. And especially from a younger generation, I think it comes across as quite insightful at times.
I think even tone of voice, isn't it? Like exactly the same words mean completely different things to the person that questioned. So, why are you doing it that way? It's very different from, why are you doing it that way?
Yeah.
And we listen to the first and disregard the second because it's a motive of the heart. And tone of voice, there are so many different ways of thinking about that. But I want to encourage you, if you're listening to this and you are, millennial or Gen Y or whatever, the question that we want to hear is, oh, wow, why are you doing it that way? Is there a better way that I can help you do it?
Yeah.
Rather,
or have you considered that maybe we could do it this way?
Yeah.
In our Bratislava
solutions.
In our Bratislava campus, the young guys there, they're all like 18, 19, 20. And they just keep coming up with fresh, new ideas. We've stolen so many of them. It's amazing, know. But no, you're right. You're right.
And so, when we think about that mindfulness, there are still boundaries of the mindfulness. And, one of the things that I try and do so often is when I think about Hillsong, we've known each other for a while. I'm a bit of a rebel, not always quite doing things the way they should do, but I will never step outside of the boundaries of who we are.
Exactly.
I know who we are as Hillsong, and I may think of a different way to get to the destination that's more applicable to a culture, because the culture in London is so different from a culture in Newcastle. And the culture in Newcastle is probably a lot more aligned to a Sydney, a bit more laid back, not as work driven. And so we're trying to achieve exactly the same thing, but we don't necessarily try and achieve it in the same way.
Mm.
We're still boundaried by, this is who we are as Hillsong.
Yep.
You know, I love Bobby's book, Heaven is in This House. And every
Right.
time I talk to her, I'm crying, please write this again, Bobby. And I think she has been, but, you know, because that's the boundaries of who we are, I believe. And sometimes we negotiate how we achieve that, but culture, the boundaries are always there, and we can push them and we can, you know, negotiate, but it's always, this is who we are. And so when we're changing culture, they're always within a proclaimer's boundary of, this is who we are, this is what we're looking to achieve, bringing leadership into that. But the innovations are, like an iPhone is an iPhone is an iPhone. But if you compare an iPhone 12 to an iPhone, the original iPhone, it's so different, but it's still an iPhone, and we still see that. And we just see the progression, the different changes happening.
You're using an illustration there that I have absolutely no idea about. I've never used an iPhone at all. You know, my wife sometimes says, how do I do this? I say, I don't know, it's an iPhone.
Yeah. I mean, you know, when you get to a certain age.
We'll stop right there. Now, John,
Yeah.
things that we discussed previously about, you know, areas of culture that you think we could be helped in by how we could create certain aspects of a culture. You mentioned a few just a moment ago. Maybe you'd like to.
I've been to your church over the years, and I love being there. And I've got some incredible friends that I've seen, you know, grow in leadership. And so I know the church quite well, and I know you well. So one of the things that I've loved to see is particularly but then you encourage the team in that, is the creative ways in which you bring the gospel to people. I think that's incredible, that, you know, just the way that you'll grab what's relevant in the world at the moment, and you'll bring, you know, movie themes and world themes, and you'll weave that, and you'll help people see Jesus in all of that. I mean, you wrote a book on the whole thing anyway, but
so available on Amazon for anybody that wants to buy it. It's very cheap.
But I think people can write books on stuff, and it's great, but you don't see that outwork necessarily in the church. But what I've loved seeing about you guys is that it's not just a book that you've written, it's a culture that you live.
Exactly.
And so I see that in the church. But maybe one of the things that the church, and I'm speaking more to the church as a whole, and you know, we're talking culture club leaders, but what you have to build is not just a great product, or the product is Jesus and salvation, but a great way of packaging that is what you guys have. But it's no good unless the gift, people are brought to the gift, or the gift is brought to people. And so, you know, one of the things that maybe you guys need to bring is, maybe some of you need to go and study Andrew in the Bible. I love him. He is one of my heroes of discipleship. We only read of him 3 times, but he has such an impact. You know, we know Peter, he stepped out of the boat, he denied Jesus. He's, you know, he says, I say you are Christ, the Son of the living God. And, you know, this is a guy that likely had ADHD, but and would have been diagnosed now. And he steps out and he does bold things, but there's 1 or 2 disciples that we don't read about a lot, and Andrew is one of those. See, we first read of Andrew when he's following John the Baptist. And it says that Andrew, and I think it's one other disciple, when John the Baptist went, there's the guy whose shoes I am unworthy to tie. And Andrew immediately followed Jesus. See, he saw something in Jesus that many other of John the Baptist disciples didn't see, and he immediately followed. Do you know the next thing he did? He went and found his brother, and he said, I found someone that I want you to meet. So immediately he found something for himself. He didn't keep it to himself. And I think the church, as the church, we have a problem in that we've found something, but we've kept it to ourselves. And we need to be Andrew in going and finding people and bringing them to Jesus, bringing them to the house of God. The next time we meet Andrew is, I think it's the next time, is the feeding of the 5,000. We know and we love that story of the miracle. But guess who was the guy that found the boy with the 5 loaves and 2 fish? It was Andrew.
Yeah.
My question is, I wonder how many other disciples saw the boy with the 5 loaves and 2 fish and disregarded him.
Very good.
We don't know that, but I'm pretty sure there'll have been some of the disciples that have walked past and disregarded him. But Andrew, again, saw something in that boy, and he brought the boy to Jesus, and he went, I don't know, maybe you can do something with this. So he brought a boy to Jesus, and Jesus did the miracle. And then the last time we read of Andrew is when Philip met a group of Greeks, and the Greeks wanted to meet Jesus. Do you know what Philip didn't do? He didn't take them to Jesus. He took them to Andrew, who took them to Jesus. See, Andrew must have had this reputation of, I'm just going to bring people to Jesus. I'm just going to bring people to Jesus. And that's what he did. And if there's any rugby fans out there, you know, Andrew's the guy in the middle who gets the ball from the scrum, and he doesn't want the glory for himself. He just passes it straight along the line so that the try can be scored.
See, I'm sure that illustration speaks to so many people. Unfortunately, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Tom, you played rugby.
All that invitation, isn't it?
Do people look at us and go, they have something that I want and I need to find, and we're like, yeah, I need to bring you to Jesus. I need to bring you to Jesus. And that's, you know, I love the welcome culture that you have in your church. Big beaming smiles. You've got a multicultural welcome team. So when people walk in, they immediately see someone like themselves. Yeah. And that's what I've loved. And I've come home and I've looked at ours and gone, okay, maybe we need to change who we are so that when people walk in, they see someone that they relate to. But if we've got a great product and we've got a great packaging, are we actually getting the gift to where people needed it? And that's what Andrew did. He got the gift to people, or people to the gift. And I want to encourage you guys, as you're building culture, it's not just about telling people, hey, come to church. It's about saying, you know, there's so many stories where people brought people to Jesus, you know, because they knew he had something. But it wasn't just people coming to Jesus, it was people bringing people to Jesus. Mm-hmm. We need to get back to maybe an invitational culture. Proclaimers is an awesome church. It's got Jesus at its center. It's got great leadership, and I'll talk a bit about that in a moment. But if we don't bring people, it's not Pastor Tom's job to do that. That's your job. That's my job, to go, hey, I need to bring you to a place where you can find wholeness, healing, and your lives can be mended, not by behavioral transformation, but by the gospel of Jesus. Yeah. We've got it here. I'm starting to preach. I'm sorry, Pastor Tom.
That's okay. That's okay. Because, you know, language is something that helps to create culture, and developing an invitational culture in the life of our church is absolutely vital. And of course, over the last nearly 17 years, coming July, 17 years I've been here in Norwich.
Wow.
We have done so many things to help people to become greater inviters of people. And, you know, it's just sort of, you know, I'm sure every pastor wrestles with this particular thing. I think having a great welcome team, having, you know, the contemporary atmosphere, having good music and relevant, you know, powerful preaching, you know, having, you know, an atrium where people are able to mingle, etc. Those are all great things, but are useless unless people are actually coming into that environment. Yeah. And how do we do that? And we had an attempt last Sunday. We called it Big Sunday. Our whole thought was to double in a day. And we all know that online statistics are very, very difficult to sort of manage. Like, you know, you could have 8 people sitting on one device, but YouTube only records what's being used. So we don't know. But,
Yeah.
and I don't want to bandy numbers around, but, the team who was looking after statistics says to us, we have literally doubled from the Sunday before to last Sunday. And again, I'm not gonna, say how many people that was, but it was a lot. And these people come from all
Yeah.
over the world as well, not just Norwich, Bratislava, and Ipswich,
Yeah.
but other parts of the UK, parts of Europe, parts of the other parts of the world. So, an invitational culture is something that we are desperately trying to continue to create. And I think it's almost like every generation you need to, every 3 to 5 years, you almost need
Yeah.
to recreating it. And that's one of the situations, like your church in Newcastle. You've got a lot of university students, as we do here, and they're there with you for 3 years mostly.
Yeah.
And every 3 years we find that we need to, go back and reinforce culture, and that's what we're doing here today.
Yeah.
And it's not just, we've given cards out, we've done business cards, we've done social media ads, we've done Facebook ads, and all of that's good. But when Andrew brought his brother to Jesus, it was because Andrew had been impacted by Jesus.
Yeah.
And the creating of a culture of invitation for us, it comes back to the individual. How impacted are you by Jesus? How passionate are you? Are you still connected with Christ, after 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? I don't care if you were baptized in the Holy Spirit back in 1948. Are you full of the Holy Spirit today?
Yeah.
And is your passion Jesus? So
Yeah.
good points there, mate. Good points.
Yeah. And the Bible doesn't say be baptized. It says be being baptized.
Yeah.
There's a continual overflowing.
Being a bit prophetic myself, I hear where you're coming from, and I sort of hear a bit of an emphasis from the Holy Spirit here for us to really look again. And I can't wait for the Q&A on Saturday morning to talk to people about, why do people stop inviting?
Yeah.
Why do people invite? Why is it that the crazy people are the ones that invite the most people? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
And why isn't, great people, why do we sometimes forget to invite? Have we become too enamored with the task? Are we too involved in the process? Do we forget the beginning bit of the process? For instance, KFC have just reopened here in Norwich, and I said to Denise, I said, "Oh, let's do KFC." I got there and there was about 50 cars.
Yeah.
And I thought, nah.
Yeah. It's not worth it.
Chicken.
Yeah.
But, they've got a great product, and all they needed to say was, "Hey, we're open," and people came rushing.
Yeah.
What we're offering and what we have on offer is so much better than Kentucky Fried Chicken. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
and I think to myself, how do we as a church, how do we as the church continue to be invitational and attractive, and how is it? I mean, it's a continued discussion that we have year after year after year in the life of the church. But thank you so much. You've emphasized something for us here today. I really appreciate it.
Can I just bring one more thing that might just, I guess, give another topic of conversation? I know that we don't have a heap of time, but the other thing I was thinking about was, and I was trying to term a phrase for it, but I'll just call it the bounce, or the leadership bounce. And we've done our journey together, and you've got some incredible leaders, and you've invested so much in Phil and Helena. I keep saying Helena, and and then Owen, and obviously, and
Sam, Andy.
No, not. I'll come to those in a second.
Cool.
But Gemma.
Gemma.
So there's that generation of leadership, and then you've got the Sams, the next generation. So, but it's quite a big bounce, age-wise, generation-wise.
Close to 10 years.
Yeah, and what I guess the question that you probably need to think about, and some of your leaders need to think about, is where's the small bounce? Where's the generation, not the generation, but where's the bounce between the Phils and the Sam? And often we can mentor and discipleship those that are much younger than us, but are we prepared to deal with our own insecurities and deal with the ones that are a couple of years younger that maybe, you know, and so we don't have this big bounce of leadership investment, but we have the little bounces as well. And we have all of these people in between. And I think, you know, that's one of the things that you've been incredibly good at, is just bringing leaders through. But maybe there needs to be the little bounce as well, not just the big bounce. And that's not your job. That's some of the leaders going, okay, I want to. And I think this is the tough thing, because we like our positions, we like the positions of closeness, but are the leaders bringing other people to you going, you need to see this. This kid, he's a couple of years younger than me, you know, he's 2 pages behind on the How to Be a Christian manual than me, but he is awesome, or she is awesome. Can I bring them to you and show you them and put them in position as well? And so it's not just a big bounce, it's the little bounces as well that maybe, and I'm having to look at that myself and going, yeah, we've got great generational stuff, but where's the mid-generational stuff? Who are you bringing through? You're looking down there, but are you looking 1 page behind you and bringing them through as well? And that's probably just, I just want to throw that in there to maybe help you go, okay, yeah, maybe that's something we can look at as a church or leadership as well. So
very good, Jon. Very good. I'm sure it will generate many questions on Saturday.
Cool.
Jon, we love you guys very, very much. You're a member of our family, and you know, your beautiful wife Dee and your gorgeous kids, and you've been a phenomenal leader and great example to us all. So I want to thank you very much for, you know, being willing to share with us for half hour, 45 minutes today on the whole concept of creating culture. And you're a great man. We really appreciate you very, very much.
Thanks, Pastor Tom. Look forward to when I can get down and hang out with you guys again sometime. So
God bless you, Jon, and thank you very much for joining with us today.
See you, bud.